Hi, Chris.
Oh, hi, Chris. Hi.
I hear you.
Good, good, good. Okay, so Chris,
Mm.
we are going to look at the students' work in progress today.
Okay.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
a good idea. Yeah,
that's a great idea.
yeah. So, here is one of them is completely verbal one. Another is part graphic, part verbal. Okay.
Mm.
So shall we look at this completely verbal one? That's Julia's. So Julia wrote this as a conspiracy, kind of conspiracies, included in conspiracies. But she made it for herself. Like, this is like her own minutes kind of thing, rather than to conspire with other people. Okay? So now we are actually not playing conspiracies. So we would like to help her to make it standalone instruction piece. Okay,
Mm.
do you get the idea?
Okay, well,
Okay,
yes.
okay. So I'm just gonna read it through, yeah, for everyone. I have decided not to conspire with anyone. My three ideas are: I wrote a chorus consisting of 4 lines and I'm going to sing it during 1 minute with repetition. 2. For the second minute, I thought of staying silent. Instead of using my voice to create sound, I'm going to use my hands and clap a beat. It could be suiting the melody everybody else is playing or completely different. 3. For the last minute, I want to hum along the melody of other students. I want to cooperate and not stand out for this minute. Instead, I want to complement the whole piece and add more harmony to it. Okay, so I think if somehow with some help to tidy up the instruction, it will be standalone instruction piece, wouldn't it? What do you think, Chris?
Well, it's not really a piece, and it's not real instruction piece. These are just instructions.
Yeah. So how to
So,
make it to a piece? That's what we
so
want. Yeah.
equally, the first two. I mean, obviously, in a piece like conspiracies, you don't have the option to not conspire. So the things that are done here would work perfectly well if there was more than one perfect person doing them. Actually, they work better if more than one person is doing it. If you have 17 people and 6 people are playing and one person sings the first instruction here, you might hardly notice anything was going on. If there were 4 people doing the same thing, that would give the piece structure. You would actually notice that something was going on. So the first instruction works just as well if 4 people do it or 10 people do it as if one person does it. So that's quite straightforward. You just need to tell whatever people who are performing what your chorus is, and they have to learn it, and then you can sing it. That's not a problem. Second minute clapping, same thing, exactly the same comment. You can do it alone, but the thing is that in a piece like a conspiracy piece, you're constantly doing things on your own anyway. Whenever your minute comes up, you're doing something on your own. So the point of the conspiracies is that something different. If you just do the thing on your own, then it's not a conspiracy and it's not different, and it doesn't perform its function in the piece. But in the same way as the first instruction, 5 people can clap. There's no problem with that. They can either clap together by designating the person who calls the second instruction the leader, and they all clap along with the leader, or they all clap in their own time. The effect would work in both in both senses. The third instruction, to hum the melody of other students. To make this a conspiracy is more difficult because you don't know if any of the other students will actually be doing any melodies. They may not be, in which case, what will you hum along with? Or will you just... So if that instruction, instead of saying hum along with the melody of other students, said imitate one of the other students, then that's perfectly functional because one of the other students will be doing something, even if it's not a melody that you can hum along with, and you can imitate it. And that's also a conspiracy instruction that several people can do. If your conspiracy instruction is imitate somebody else, then that will work. So all of these three instructions work perfectly for 5 people. But to make a piece from them, that's more complicated. You'd have to ask yourself whether it would be a piece. It would be a 3-minute piece if you made it a piece. The first minute would be a little chorus, and then everybody clapping, and then hard to say. Somebody would have to start instruction 3 in order that everybody else could imitate them. Otherwise, section 3 would be a silent minute because everybody would have to wait for somebody else to do something so that they could imitate it.
Yeah, thank you. So, in order to make some instructions into piece, I think your message is like you need to think about the structure, how to trigger another thing or how to trigger one instruction. So you will have to think about, probably the first thing you have to think about how many people you want, and then how you organize the time or one section to another.
Yeah, if you wanted to actually make this into a piece, what you would then do, for instance, one thing that you could do, first of all, as you say, you need to determine a number of people. Let's say it's 15 people. So you break this 15 people into 3 groups of 5. And then you need to determine a system whereby each group of 5 is performing one or other of these 3 instructions. So they wouldn't happen one after the other, but they would happen simultaneously and in different combinations. So then the piece could be more than 3 minutes. It could be 9 minutes or 10. No, 9 minutes would be mathematically tidy. 3 times 3. And you would designate a system whereby either by choosing for themselves or by the leader pointing at somebody or by clock or by turning over a card, somebody would be designated leader of one of the groups and then would call one of these 3 things, and then the group would do that thing. And the leader would then be able, for instance, to control the volume and the tempo of the thing, so that you've got people clapping. You can make them clap very quietly or very loud, or you can bring them up, take them down, or you can make them slow down and speed up. So you have a lot of possibilities of creating structure. But the basic instruction is everybody's clapping. And for the chorus melody that repeats, this is like a loop of melody. Again, this can be very quietly underneath everything else in a spooky, ghostly kind of way, or it could be belting it out over the top, or it could start belting it out and slowly get more quietly, because while you're doing your thing, one of the other groups may be doing another thing. So you can make what you're doing fit with what the other group is doing by controlling tempo and dynamics. So then the last thing you'd need would be whatever device you're going to use to make a structure. So, it would be nice, for instance, if everybody doesn't start together and everything happens together, but maybe one of the things starts, and after, let's say you want to stick with your 1 minute, because you could also designate them as 1, 2, or 3 minutes. So when you start to play your thing, it doesn't always have to be 1 minute. It could be longer. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 3 minutes. And again, if you're going for the 9-minute thing, then having 1, 2, and 3 is good because everything ties together. So then you have to make a little structure where the initiation for one of the groups starting would have to be either designate a leader and the leader just decides when they want to start, makes a musical decision. He's listening to people doing the clapping and thinks, okay, now we come in with our melody. And this way, you would simply have to say that each group leader can only do 3 events.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could say each group leader, when they've done their event, points to one of the other members of the group and designates them the new group leader, and then the new group leader makes the decision about when you do your next thing. So this would be a very simple way to do it. Or you can do it with a time map where it's designated where things begin and end, but it's not designated what thing is happening. So, just using these 3 ideas, you could put them together in an infinite number of different ways.
Okay, so from what I understand now, from what Chris said, it's basically the things you have to think about creating a piece is basically the same as everything else all the time. We always say, think about the pitch, think about the rhythm, then texture, and timbre, and structure you always have to think about. And then in instruction piece cases as well. And so when you create instruction, think all those things. Will you be able to specify, or you'd rather not to specify, or whichever? You have to think about it. I think that's the sort of the way to go forward, I think, if you don't know what to add next. So, okay, so Julia, are you there? Julia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to say something?
Yeah. So basically, the piece that I wrote was meant only for me, and it was like a very not complex thing to do. I didn't really think about the details of it, so that's why it is what it is.
Yeah.
But like what Chris said, that I can add more people, make it shorter, make it longer. So I guess I just need to work on the details. And yeah.
Yeah, you just need to think about structure. That's the thing. That's all.
Anyone else? Would you like to ask Chris something about this Julia's piece, or any opinions? Anything you would like to say? If you have anything, unmute yourself and please do talk. No? If not, we're going to look at Leo's piece now. Is it okay? Yeah? Okay, so Leo sent us these. Leo, would you like to make yourself visible?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Okay, so Leo sent us the, oh hi Leo. Leo sent us this instruction, which is a combination of the graphic and very short instruction. So the square, keep long note. Who's
There's a very interesting creaking
yeah,
door.
Yeah, my father entered the room.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Square, keep long note. Circle, do like birds. And diamond, improvise. And triangle, and do rhythm. And at that point, I asked Leo, we need to know a little bit more than that. So he sent us the second version. Guy, can you find the second version? Okay. And could you
I don't really know how to.
enlarge?
I don't know how to zoom in here.
Oh, okay. Probably just to make it bigger in the screen, I think.
It's filling the whole screen, so I don't really know.
Okay, all right. Okay. So
Oh,
he added more instruction in it. So so if I can see it, yeah. So the keep long notes, do like verse, and the improvise section. Okay, improvise section. He put triplets and whatever notes you like, and triangle, do rhythm, 120 tempo, and slowly down tempo to 80. So I said to Leo that for the human beings to do exactly 120 and exactly 80 is not possible unless you have a metronome or something. So probably just play faster and then gradually slower might be practical, I said. And the triplets, whatever notes you like, again, what sort of triplets? What do you mean? And blah, blah, blah. And he created the video, multi-track video himself by using a smartphone app. So we'd play his own demo version of this instruction piece.
Yeah.
Okay? Chris, can you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, right. Now, Leo, could you mute your voice? Because it's a
Yes.
feedbacking. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mute, yeah. Yeah, the video can stay there. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Guy, could you play it? Yeah. Okay, so that was his own demo. Now I would like to put the Chris in the screen. Guy, do you think can we do that? Could we put the Chris in screen?
I don't think I can share, because I'm sharing the whole screen. There isn't an option for sharing part of the screen.
Okay, so probably if we go to chat, everyone open the chat window. We have uploaded Leo's instructions, so probably we could see from there without sharing it. Is it possible?
Shall I stop sharing then?
Chris, can you open the chat window?
Yeah.
And you will see the file, added file. The 1237, I added the file. So if you see it, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so that's Leo's score.
Yeah.
So I was a bit surprised to hear his own demo because I thought it was initially going to be played one by one, or like somebody direct and play, or like a lottery, somebody draw the graphic and they play, or something like that. And then he sent us everything played together, almost like a minimalist piece. And so I thought it might be helpful if he would add something at the beginning. I think he needs something there at the beginning to say how many
Well,
people he wants and things like that.
I think it would be interesting for him to tell us how he interpreted his own score. How did he go from those 4 shapes and instructions to what we see on the screen? How did
Okay,
he do it?
Leo, could you explain how you read your own score when you make a demo?
Okay, so basically, it's all about the improvisation. So you can do whatever you want, but you need to respect the conspiracies. That's the thing. If it
So,
makes sense, what I'm saying.
so each of the 4 people
Yeah,
can play anything they want as
anything
long
they
as
want.
it's one of those instructions.
It will be a
Or can
coordinator who will choose what people will do the conspiracy. Which people will do the conspiracy. Like, let's say I'm the coordinator, and I say, you do the circle, you do the triangle, you do the diamond, you do the
okay.
square.
So each of the 4 players is doing one of those instructions.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so one is playing like a drone all the way through.
Yeah,
Yeah. And one is playing triplets, and one is playing a decelerating rhythm, and one is improvising.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
This is
Then that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but I think you still need something at the very beginning, like you need 4 players, or like 4 by 2, or like 8 players or 12 players, and then same instrument or different instrument, or
um,
how. Yeah.
I haven't think of that. Like, this is like for the written part, I guess. Uh, Basically, you can do whatever you want as long as you respect the conspiracies, the triangle, the cycle, and all that. This is the thing.
I
This is
would
how
just
I'm thinking of it.
I would say that observing the instruction rather than, because conspiracy, the word conspiracies is
Okay,
a
the
Chris used specifically for his own piece for
okay,
several people to conspire. Yeah,
okay. The
so people,
instructions.
yeah,
Okay, so
like secretly. discuss what to do, and all the other players don't know. That's why he called it conspiracies. But
Okay.
in this case, it's not conspiracies
It's
anymore. So
instructions.
it's
Okay. Yeah.
instructions. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No,
And
it's
for
all.
the process is called conspiracies. That's what.
No, it's Chris's thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
Isn't
Sorry
it?
about that.
Chris, am I right?
Yeah.
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 Sorry. I didn't know. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from Chris or anything else from other people?
Nothing.
I think the only thing is just to put a couple of sentences before the shapes, because you've provided a legend. It's just about saying how you're going to use this legend.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to define that, a couple of lines just describing what you're going to do with these shapes and instructions. It's not a whole bunch of written work. It's just 2 lines.
Guy, could you make yourself visible?
Yeah. Hang on. Where's the camera? Here. Here. Yeah. Hello. So yeah, I think it's not a lot. It's just a couple of lines of what the context is for using these shapes, and then it will be a complete instructions course.
Well, on the instructions where the legend is, I will write. It will be, let's say, a coordinator. He will choose 4 people and blah blah blah, and I will send it to you, mail. And I think that's okay.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Really, to make it work. It's okay.
So.
Okay. JJ asked us, are there any other ways to add instruction? Because we had verbal instruction, and we had the Leo used signs as well. Are there any other ways to do instruction? That was a question from JJ. So, Chris.
Well, I mean, Frank Zappa, for instance, used to make signs with his hands and jump up and down on the floor in order to get musicians to do what he wanted. So there are all kinds of hand signals that you can use. Butch Morris, who did the thing called conduction with large numbers of people, also operated with a whole list of pre-arranged signs. So when he would make certain signs, he would point to one person or to a bunch of people, and then he would indicate what he wanted them to do, and they would do it, and then he'd slow them. See, there's all of this. So Frank Zappa used to, he'd tell everybody what was coming, and then he'd jump off the floor, and the minute his feet hit the floor, they had to change. That was, and otherwise there are conducting signals, which all conductors use, which is bring the tempo down, bring the volume down, or you could say bring the tempo down. Once you've organized your signals, you can control all of the parameters. I mean, you can make a sign that means pitch, and then you make the pitch sign, and then you bring people up, and you bring people down. You can make a sign that means regular pulse, and then you just point at the people you want to do it. So everybody has to watch the conductor. And you don't need to know anything except what the signals mean, and then you do what you say. So that's a way of organizing a piece, and doing a similar thing with cards. So John Zorn works a lot with cards. So the conductor can have the card, so he'll hold up the card, it'll say 4 and 7, and you have to know what 4 and 7 mean, and you do what. So 4 might mean country and western, 7 might mean very loud. So then you have to play some country and western music very, very loud. Zorn does that a lot, but Zorn also introduced a much more interesting system of not having a leader, of not having a
Yeah,
conductor, of not having
Chris,
somebody in charge.
Chris, I'm just going to butt in because you have played John Zorn's piece. You've done that before, right?
Yeah, I've played the Cobra piece. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's his experience as well. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
go on. Yeah.
So in the Cobra, you have a main conductor who controls the whole thing up to a point. So with cards and pointing, or also with cards and people volunteering. So you can hold up a card and somebody will hold their hand up and say, I'll do that. And then they get to do that. But while you're playing, you can pass. So you're playing something like very fast flurry of notes. You can pass your instruction to another musician. So everybody has to be watching everybody all the time. So you're playing something and you decide to pass it to somebody. You pass it and they start to play it. Also, other musicians can interrupt and take something, or they can call on the conductor to give them a thing to do, or they can call on them to be able to do anything they want. So it's very complex and very, very fast, because whatever is happening, the main conductor can always stop everybody. So you get into a thing that you like and you just be shut down straight away. And in the meantime, people are passing instructions across to one another, and he's giving us. So this is a kind of, you create a structure that nobody can control because it's all happening too quickly, and everybody has power. Everybody has power to take over something or to initiate something or to stop something. So this is really fun to do. It's complicated, exhausting, but you get incredible results from it because the conductor will point at 5 people and say, the instruction will be to play something that's like jazz. It's a very broad instruction, general jazz. And another 5 people will be called on to play something else. And then you don't, when you had your instruction, you don't do it until you get the go signal. So you know what you're sitting there, you know what you have to do, you're going to play jazz. But you don't do anything until you actually get the instruction. Meanwhile, these 8 people over here are playing some really heavy metal riff. So the conductor will then point to the heavy metal guys and point to the jazz guys and do a sign. The metal guys have to stop, the jazz guys have to start. So you suddenly get a complete shift from one genre of music to another. And this happens, it could be 10 seconds. You can have half a minute of metal, 10 seconds of jazz. Meanwhile, you set up these guys over here to do something else, and these people. So everything moves very quickly. And while that's happening, people inside the band are organizing their own thing and taking over instructions from other people. So this is a kind of, it's a meta instruction piece. So Zorn has given instructions, but those instructions devolve power onto other people. So the score sets up a system, but it can't determine how the system will evolve. Unlike Cage's pieces, where you set up a thing which has an absolute structure. Well, some of Cage's. I mean, he also experimented with many different ideas, but generally speaking, there's a trajectory in the Cage piece, and there's no trajectory in Cobra because it can go absolutely anywhere. But still, behind all of that variety are Zorn's instructions. So Zorn has set the system up. It's like, inventing the rules of football. The match can go a lot of ways, but the rules are behind what everybody can and can't do.
Right. So in your conspiracies pieces case, you used exact timings.
Mm.
Everyone's to look at digital clock. So each second is like a conductor, isn't it? So each second, as the digital clock changes, the numeric changes directly conducts. But towards the end, you start to conduct. You start to give the
Mm.
like signals. You start this and gradually moves and this gradually quieting. So it's like a combination of actually signaling and time as conductor, right? So that's how
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Mm.
hybrid. It's a hybrid piece. It has absolute fixed length. Um, Everything is done by the clock, so there's an absolute rule about time. But in order to make it more interesting, some parts are free. So, in other words, the time is given and the player is given, but the content is not given. So the score has nothing to say about what happens, only when it happens and who makes it happen.
Mm.
But in other places, the score determines not only who and what, but exactly what the thing is that you have to do. So in the whole clock section in the middle, where you play the pulses, then you're actually not free at all.
Mm-hmm.
You simply, and in fact, no individual player, except for the two soloists, has any freedom. You're simply part of a big machine. And then later on, yes, where there's conducting, a little bit of conducting. Um, this is essentially because this was a kind of, it started as a student piece to get some experience of different ways of being organized.
It
So,
started as actually
well,
concert piece,
it
Chris.
actually the
It was
very early version had two extracts from actual graphic scores in.
that's right. Yeah.
The famous 1958 Earl Brown score was actually part of the score, and there was a picture score of a lot of little dots, because you can use anything once as long as you designate rules. Anything can be a score. So I also was part of Fred Frith's Graphic Scores Orchestra, and what Fred used was photographs, only photographs. So he took photographs of buildings, bricks, birds perched on telegraph wires, mountains, trees, anything. And then each of the photographs would have instructions. So usually with a grid. So you look at the picture and there'd be grid lines so that you'd have a time. And then there would be an instruction saying, the white parts, these people play, and the black parts, these people play. With a picture which was all black and white shapes. And I will indicate the time. And sometimes white would mean play very loud or play very high. Black would mean play very low, play very quietly. So depending what instruction you invent, everything can be interpreted as a score. I mean, after rehearsing for a day doing the graphic scores piece, when you come out of the rehearsal, everything looks like a score. So you look at the tables in the cafeteria and it's a score. And you look out the window and it's the tree line and it's a score, because you just got used to interpreting everything. So there are famous scores which consist, for instance, of the New York City skyline. So there's just a silhouette of the New York City skyline, and it's a timeline horizontally, and then there's instructions for how to interpret that shape, that graph-like shape.
Was it Fred, the New York skyscraper thing? Is it
No,
Fred's?
he didn't do that. No, I
Mm.
can't remember who did that.
Ah,
Somebody
okay.
did that.
I remember the Fred score, the example of Fred's photography score is on his own website. I think he's got some
Oh,
there. Yeah,
possibly.
yeah, yeah. I've seen it. So, Chris, about the time, I remember you used to use candles for the
Mm.
time. Could you talk about it?
Well, I did one piece,
Mm,
yes, which was an instruction. It was a card piece actually. So
mm,
um, everybody had two sets of cards which they shuffled, and one set of cards, 8 cards, I think. One set of cards told you what you had to do,
mm,
what kind of thing, high notes, fast notes, varying pitch notes, long drone, etc. So it told you the kind of thing you had to do, and the other set of cards gave you a dynamic marking. You know, piano, piano, forte, forte, piano, forte. Um, fluctuate tempo from loud to quiet, from quiet to loud. So there were 8 cards in each pile. You shuffled them both. So when you had to start, you would turn over the first 2 cards and it would say play pointillistic notes, and this one would say from very quiet to very loud. So that determined what people did. In order to determine durations, everybody had these very, very thin birthday cake type candles, which burn very quickly. And I cut them into 7 different lengths. So some were really short and some were longer. And so um, everybody had a tray with 7 candles, and they were all different heights. And so you lit your first candle. It was very relaxed. You had to be very relaxed about it. You lit the first candle, you turned over your first 2 cards, and you did whatever the cards told you to do until the candle was burned out. That could be 30 seconds or it could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes even, maximum. Probably 2 maximum. And then you stopped, you light your second candle, turn over your second set of cards and do that. And so everybody in the ensemble, I think there were 7 people in the ensemble, everybody did that. So everybody was playing a different thing because their instructions would be different for a different length of time. And on the electronic, the amplified version, the sound engineer also had cards telling him how to control people's levels. So that was completely. You might be playing something loud, but he would make you very quiet, or he would bring the level up slowly over the course. And he also had candles. And there's a conductor, and the conductor um, had a superpower. The conductor could actually stop anybody that he wanted from playing at all. And the conductor could also say, do the opposite of your instruction. So if you were playing very quickly and very quietly, suddenly you'd have to play very loud and very slow. And if the opposite of what you're doing was actually impossible, then you would just stop playing altogether until your candle was finished. So again, this was a piece in which nobody can actually control the piece. Because even if the conductor thinks, I'm going to stop, I'm going to make something happen, it may not result in anything happening because the player might just stop because they can't do that. But since the conductor doesn't know what their instructions are because they can't see the cards, has to guess, so nobody can really control it. What the conductor can do is stop 7 people from playing all at the same time. So you get structure by having things coming in and coming out. So yes, the candles were quite good because you didn't need a clock. And also you have the theatre. You do it in a quite dark, so the audience really sees the candles and by the candlelight. And the candles go out and you have the whole ritual of lighting your next candle. So it looks nice. And it's also a bit mysterious for the public who can't quite understand what's going on. But you can see that something's going on. And that was about, I think, 14, 16-minute piece.
So how's the length of the candles are determined? Are they actually they pick up or they are given? by the.
I bought them in the fall. I didn't buy birthday candles. I bought these things called tapers.
Mm.
So one taper is a long, thin thing, lasts about 16, 20 minutes. And I just said, you take your taper, cut it into 7 pieces of different lengths. So
Ah,
they do it themselves.
and they don't know exactly what's going on. Probably they know the purpose, but they can't really know for which part
No,
could be this
no, you don't
particular
know what
thing.
your cards are going to say. So,
Right.
you might say, oh, if you knew, you might say, oh, I have a really nice idea. I can play this beautiful long drone. So I'll make sure I have a long candle for my long drone. But you don't. Then you turn over your cards and it says something, play very loud, very fast. And you've got to do that for 3 minutes. It's impossible.
Right. Well,
So,
that's very interesting because
yeah,
I knew that the piece existed, but I didn't know the details. I heard it for the
yeah.
first time today. So.
And, and, and the instruction cards
Mm,
had things like play a melody,
mm,
play a rhythm. So those sorts of instructions. Play a genre style.
mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of structure out of the piece that way.
Mm,
And the conductor, if it's something sounding ghastly and something else is sounding good, you can just stop the ghastly thing, and you can also start it again. As long as the candle is burning, your instruction holds. So the
mm,
conductor stops you, if he wants you to start, can start you again, and stop somebody else. So you get, like the Zorn piece, you have a lot of control, and you also have a lot of possibilities for the musicians to subvert the rules.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chris. And anyone got any final questions or anything you'd like to ask to Chris now? Anyone? No? Okay, well, Chris, thank you very much for this very difficult circumstances. We've never done. I have said before, Chris has been a guest lecturer for like the past 7 years or so now, but this online thing is the first time. So it was a really like experiment for us, for me, for Guy, and for Chris, for all of us. But I think it kind of worked well as we had student work in progress as well. So it was like quite useful, at least for me. It was great. So I'd say thank you very much for.
I think
Yeah, yeah.
Julia was typing something. I'm wondering if she has a question.
Okay.
Julia, do you have a question? Maybe not.
Julia, you can, if you have a question now, you can. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So hope it was useful for everyone and they enjoyed this new experience. Okay. Great. Yeah. So thank you, Chris. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chris.
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess yeah, this is the first kind of lecture type thing with Skype, right? You have done the interview, but involving many students. It was the first time for you as well.
Oh, this is
Was it?
Cornelius Carty. The score here in this chat room is the Cornelius Carty score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put some links to the things you were mentioning. So a link
Right.
to the Earl Brown score,
Yeah. Right.
John Zorn and Cage.
Yeah, this is Treaties, which is absolutely unplayable piece. It's a classic example of a graphic score which is really a graphic score. It looks great, but it's unperformable.
But actually, that link has the Fred Frith Brick score and another one, a Zurich score. That's why I put it there, not for Treatise.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
okay. Right, yes, I remember that brick wall piece. Yeah, so you can see, can't you? I mean, those lines show you how Fred has designated different sections, and they all mean something, and he always conducted. And it's a very useful rule playing, if you ever get called up to play, is whatever the score says, watch the conductor and do whatever, even if the conductor is asking you to do something that's not in the score. And I work with a guy called Yanku Dumitrescu a lot, and he's big on graphic scores, and really he just gets carried away, and he wants to hear more of something. Well, you can't look at the score and say, "Oh, I haven't got more of something." You just have to do more of something. Fred was like that. Fred, you just really had to watch Fred.
Yeah, did I tell you that recently I went to Yanku's workshop when he came here, and then he did the workshops a couple of days after the performance with you.
Mm.
And he asked me to play a drum. I initially played the piano, and he asked me to play a drum for his solo piece, which wasn't going to be with drum at all. He just thought it would be great to have a drum on the spot. And I said, well, I could, but don't expect me to play like Chris, I said. And he said, yeah, that's fine. So the poor Eduardo at the Eclectic went to find a floor tom and set it up. And he said he would like me to play the piano as well. So piano and floor tom and ready on stage. And he ended up not to direct me to do anything.
Right.
So I was playing the silence. It was weird because I had to be ready all the time. If I was just a member of audience, I can be relaxed. But, I don't know when the instruction comes, when the conducting comes. So I had to be ready. That was very strange, but that's young.
But that's it. Thing is, it's like with Fred. I mean, Fred's instructions are very clear, and those pieces are really, really, really clear. But for musical reasons, something might just need to happen at a certain point, and the only person who knows that is the conductor or the composer. And in those cases, I mean, it was what I was talking about there really was a performance instruction. If you're a performer, you don't get too precious about the score. Don't say, "Oh, I can't do that because it's not in my score." You do what you're asked because the composer knows best what should happen.
Okay, well, so if you don't have any more questions, and let's thank Chris. Thank you very much, Chris.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Hope you come back next year as well. And
I hope so.
Everything goes well, I hope. And stay safe. Wash your hands. I always say, don't touch your face.
Right.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye.
Okay, so everyone, if you have any questions, even not related to what we did today, please just ask me now, or we can just call it a day, or call it a term for this module. Okay, so please unmute yourself. Not unmute. Yeah, show your faces and let your voice heard. Say goodbye. Everyone, show your face if you can.
Karina.
Hi. I really enjoyed listening into that. Thanks very much for the students' contributions, and Chris's descriptions of different approaches was fantastic. I really loved it. It was great for me as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's really interesting what you do, and it's something else. It's different from what I did. before. Like I did classical music. I like to play pop, but this is something else, like 100% different from what I thought music is. So yeah.
Yeah, it was worth a hustle, wasn't it? You made the video in one day, and it was really good. You just did that. It was worth it.
Yeah.
The video was interesting. It said a cappella maker. Is that the name of the software you use?
Yeah, is the name of the app, the thing.
Thank you.
And you can do it only by smartphone, right? You don't need any other equipment, only by
No,
smartphone.
just the smartphone and headphones, because if you record without it, it will sound other sound, like.
Is
Yeah.
there a video of the candle piece? That sounds amazing. Also visually, is there?
Well,
Well, it's not so easy to do it with a lot of people. It doesn't work very well with more than 7 or 8 people, unfortunately. But it
Where,
is fun, yeah.
where and what sort of occasion did you do the candle piece? Do you remember?
I was in the European Improvisers Orchestra for a few years, on and off, and it was a piece that I did for them. So we performed it quite often.
Oh.
The orchestra was put together. It was a European initiative. Okay, so European funding. So there were 7 people from 7 different countries, European countries, and we started off with the intention of trying to perform treaties. Cornelius Cardi's score, the one I pointed out, and which is when we discovered that the piece is actually, it's fantastic, but it's not a piece you can perform. I mean, they never performed it. They always, it's 70, 80 pages long, and they're very complicated things on those pages. You can't do them in a minute. So essentially, whenever they performed them, they would choose 1 or 2 pages, and that would be the whole gig. But there's no proper timeline in the piece, so nobody knows where anybody else is. There's no set of instructions how to interpret. You just have to look at it and figure something out. So it is very beautiful, and it's a great conceptual idea, but it's not performable. Anyway, so we started with the intention of trying to perform treaties, and we took 7 or 8 different approaches to it. We experimented a lot, and we ended up, first of all, we obviously did what they did and only chose a few pages. Then we decided to choose pages and make somebody a conductor for each page and actually score it out. So what the line, who played what lines and what they meant. And then we tried doing things like playing several pages. We did all the possible combinations. None of them, we got results, but really it didn't give you enough, or it gave you too much, but it wasn't right. It wasn't Goldilocks territory, just right in the middle. And then we started to perform other graphic score pieces. So we commissioned 4 new pieces from 4 young composers, and I produced a piece, and a couple of other people produced a piece, and the candle piece was done for them. And I don't think it's only ever been done once on any other occasion. When I was in a festival in Miami with a lot of Fluxus people, and I said, "Hey, I've got a score. If you want, we can all play this." So otherwise,
When about were they? So when you were involved in European improvisers thing, and when you went to Miami, what sort of time?
15 years ago.
So
I'd have to look.
yeah, it's around
Last
2000.
century, so 20
Last
years.
century, more than 20
Yeah.
century. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, yeah, so thank you. Okay, so thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Stay
everyone.
safe. Okay.